Okay, good evening, everybody. It is Tuesday, and welcome back. This is Ozzy Simoes. I am now live on all platforms. And once again, introduce myself, Ozzy Simoes. I am the author of the Small Business Destruction Guide. Okay, and this is a book that I wrote about small businesses. And right now, I'm doing a series of lives that has to do with why businesses fail, and that's the topic, the heading that you probably see on the video if you're seeing it recorded. So what are we talking about, and why are we talking about why businesses fail? Well, because after studying small businesses and why they close, especially within the first 24 months, I came to the conclusion that there are very specific and even foolish, simple, idiotic reasons why businesses, and well, not businesses, but entrepreneurs, business owners who invest a lot of time, a lot of money into a business, and yet they fail to do very small, specific, simple things, tasks that eventually will get them in trouble, and they close down and go out of business. So what are we talking about today? This is day number 3 or video number 3. We're talking about getting advice. Yeah, still people get start businesses and they don't get advice. So let me pretty much, well, before I even get started, let me show you this real quick. If you're on Instagram, you can see that because the camera is obviously lengthwise. But if you're not, see this cool watch right here? Okay. See how cool that is? That is an all wood watch. This thing weighs nothing. It's like a feather, okay? These arrived today. And I had placed this order over a month ago, saw an ad online, company that was going out of business. This company went out of business. They shut down completely. They took their last order on October 31st. Up until a couple of days ago, I thought it was a scam because the watches weren't arriving, and I ordered a whole bunch. I thought, the deal, the closing down deal was pretty good. I put a few $100s into a bunch of watches, and now I've got Christmas presents. But let me show you them real quick. This is my coolest, okay? So that's the coolest one that I have, okay? So I've got duplicates of a bunch of these because, like I said, I'm going to give them out as Christmas gifts. Some of them I'm going to keep. That's another one. All right. Try and get it on all the cameras. This is another one. Okay. Now, again, all these watches are pretty much 100% wood, except for these two. These two are pretty heavy, the two that I just showed you first. Okay. And then this one over here. All right. So these are the coolest little watches. So when I saw them, I was like, I got to buy a bunch of these, especially. And, I was trying to help out the company because they're going out of business. So they're trying to get rid of their stock, I guess. Long story short, I wanted to actually call them up and do some consulting, figure out why they went out of business or why they were going out of business. Like I said, this was probably in the beginning of August. I did this, and then they took their final orders on August 31st. But, they, in their website and pretty much everything, they just said that their forms of transportation and so on and COVID kind of interfered with their way of doing business. So I don't know. I have a hard time believing, because they are a full online, they were a full online business. They did not seem to have any storefronts or anything, any brick and mortar stores. So I have a feeling maybe other stuff was not managed. Maybe they didn't have a good process. That's probably the case, and that's kind of the reason they gave is, their forms of stuff like that. Anyway, but probably didn't have a good process, maybe mismanagement of funds, stuff like that. That probably did not allow them to stay open when COVID hit. And, it's like, and if you've watched any of my lives before on why businesses close and all the lives, just go back. They all recorded on Instagram, Facebook, and on YouTube. I talk about this, and I actually used, if you remember the first live I did with the sword, okay? COVID came either so, you can chop up and open up new paths, or, it came to kill you. So again, this business, which I thought was awesome, I had never seen these before. They had never advertised before, at least that I had seen. So when eventually on Facebook, they were advertising them, and again, up until a couple of days ago, I thought I wasn't going to see my money. I wasn't going to see the watches, and they arrived today. There's a few more coming actually, and because I then placed another order after I placed the order for these. But anyway, that's a business that went out of business. And again, I don't know. I wish I could have had the opportunity to interview them and figure out why exactly they closed. And they probably wouldn't told me the whole truth and all, everything but the truth. But anyway, let's go back to getting advice, which is the topic I'm talking about today. Getting advice is just one of those things that it requires a lot of humility, and especially depending on the type of person that you are, okay? You may not be the type of person that likes to get advice because you know everything, Let's say you did your own research, so you didn't fail in the first couple of things that I've talked about in the past couple of lives, either jumping right in, you're not just getting into the hot thing, or you did do some research, you did some investigating and some research into the product or business, or maybe it's a business that you're already in. And then you decide to open up a business, but you don't get advice. Now, what's getting advice? Well, in the book, I use my own example. I got advice from my wife. Then, okay, so her advice was one thing. Then I went to get advice from people in the industry, okay, that I was entering and got advice. Now, don't forget, if you listen to my previous lives, I talk about the fact that the product that I was getting into was not common. It was not known. But I knew enough information to where the questions I was going to ask people in that industry wasn't going to open up or questions about what product I was going to use, but it opened up the solution that I was actually asking questions about the solution that I was going to be getting into with this new product. Get it? So I got advice from that industry. And don't forget, like I mentioned yesterday, I then researched and studied and researched and studied for 5 months, at least that I can remember. Okay, so getting advice is just that. It's being humble, and you have to be wise in the response of the advice that you get. If it's from somebody that's completely knowledgeable and everything, they give you specific advice and they give you facts and so on, great. Sometimes even then, you have to go with a gut feeling, okay? But the more advice you get, the likelier or the more likely, the likelier the chance you are going to be successful, okay? And like I mentioned, to anybody that does a ton of research, does a ton of their homework, if at the end you still fail, you can't look back and say, well, I should have, or I didn't. In this case, I didn't get advice. So because sometimes people will give you advice also based on their feelings and so on, and maybe not really always factual. You know how it is when you get advice. Sometimes people, they just also think that they know it all. And but at the end of the day, the more advice you get, the more level the field becomes for you in your responses and in your decision. Okay, and that is it for today. Don't forget. Go, it's yours for the taking. If you want to start up your own business, or if you have your own business and you gotta go and get it, it's all yours. It's out there for you, okay? It's yours. Go grab it. It's yours for the taking. I'll see you tomorrow. Adios.